So from there, my sister got engaged and I decided I'd had enough of the full-time networking. I wanted to be with her for that process, you know, and I was ready to kind of move back home. So after 5 years in Liverpool, went back to Carlisle and I thought, right, I need to get a real job. I need to get, you know, a proper job. So I'll go networking to meet some business people because I didn't know anyone in the business community, and quickly realized that there was just nothing at the time. There was hardly any networking events available. There was maybe 1 or 2 in Carlisle a month, but that was about it. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 BNI chapters as well. So I decided to take everything that I'd learned from attending all these networking events and flip it and start hosting them. So this is where the second business came from. So I decided to set up again, but obviously completely different business model, different location, different business people. And now it was a networking organization. So it was hosting networking events. So I hosted 4 events a month. May 15 it was called.
Nice.
It's my birthday, so I got to have a party every year. So yeah, May 15 launched on the 15th of May, and we had a big launch event, and then I hosted 4 events a month. And businesses could pay to be a member, like they would, you know, kind of any other networking organization, and they could come and go to as many as they want. And I'm not gonna lie, it was tough. It was really, really tough. I think that first year, I remember once I hosted an event and like 1 person showed up.
Yeah.
And it just rips your heart out. We just got pissed, really, to be honest. We just got drunk and had a laugh, and it was fine. But it's really hard. And because at the time, I remember putting on events to try and like teach people why they should be going networking, because it wasn't really part of the culture at the time. People networked, they built relationships, but they didn't necessarily realize that they were doing it. So the idea of physically going to a networking event seemed a bit alien, I guess. So it took a lot of time to really build those relationships, and a lot of trust needed to be evolved with the business community there. And that, you know, and I totally appreciate that that in time people did join and they did come on board and they started attending events, and there was more than just me and a couple of others there, and I had a great time, and I loved that business, and I loved the business people I got to work with. And hosting events was so different because you kind of become like this mum to all these other people, and you become someone like an agony aunt. You become a sounding board, someone that they can just vent to if they need to, especially entrepreneurs who work independently or on their own. So it was very different, and I learned so much from doing that. Again, didn't have really a clue what I was doing, made it up a lot as I went along, but you learn as you go that way, and I made a lot of mistakes, but I wouldn't make them again. So it was only a positive thing, and I've built some, you know, lifelong relationships out of it. And yeah, did that for nearly 5 years, I think it was.
Wow.
All in all.
I think that's almost when, because I think the first time I was exposed to you was on Startup Week, and I think you were a guest speaker, and same as I was, different. It was all pre-recorded this year because of COVID. But I think one of the things that there's certain people that you seem to resonate with, even though we'd never met. And I think my big one, and the one that always came to mind, and actually she was my first guest on this 40 odd guests ago, was Ashley King, that I think you know, from the Northeast. Anyway. And I think it's anyone who is willing to create something and put it out there. It is scary. It is hard to do. That even when you do a silly little live stream like this, where you talk to interesting people and stuff, when you actually press go live, it's daunting because you're always putting yourself out there to get shot at. And actually, it's so much easier to not do it. And almost, you know, so I took a break when COVID was worse, and it was like, at what point is appropriate to come back? And you're second guessing yourself, and it's easy to fall into the trap and think, actually, I'm just not going to do it. So anyone that does this, and we'll go on to some of the things that you've done, I think it's more difficult than people think. You need to actually put yourself out there with something that you've created, and you want to share, because some people, you know, are going to slag it off, and it's just having the drive to say, no, I'm proud of this, and just keep going.
Yeah, I think you're never going to please everyone, but you know, like you said, pressing that button, or, you know, whatever it is that it makes you so vulnerable to the world, especially when it's something you really care about. And I think that's why quite often people just don't try, because the fear of failure outweighs that. See, for me, my biggest fear is the fear of unfulfilled potential. It's that fear of not knowing what I could have done had I tried. That terrifies me way more than failing at anything. So, you know, I think I've had to train myself just to do it. Okay. And then if it doesn't work, which, you know, stuff for me hasn't worked in the past, but it's made me better at what I'm doing now because I've failed, and that's all you can take. And I don't think failure is even a thing. You only fail if you stop trying. You know, how can you lose a race that you're still in, kind of thing? As long as you just keep going, it doesn't really matter what you do. You just change the rules of the race, I guess.
I think you've just given me my soundbite for Twitter. That's it. You just
get in.
Nailed it. The end.
Already like 10 minutes in already. Nailed it. There you go.
But no, it's true. It's true.